Welcome back to the Tropical Update. It's Saturday, September 16th. I'm Tom. I'll be guiding you through graphics. We're going to be talking about Hurricane Jose and what impacts it's going to have on the east coast of the U.S. We're also going to be talking about Tropical Depression 14 and also 96L and its chances of development. So first up, let's look at our 2-day, and the X that you see closest to the Leeward Islands, that's 96L. They're giving it a 90% chance of development in the next 2 to 5 days. So we'll have to keep a good eye on that. Tropical Depression 14 is still out there. It's running into some problems. And also you can see Jose off of the Bahamas. And there's a little better picture here. And you can see that 96L is still headed toward the islands. They're expecting it to do a little bit of a northwest turn. And like I said, they're saying it's got a 90% chance of developing into a depression or maybe even a tropical storm. Now here's Jose, and if you look at our cone, it has changed a little bit. The top part of the cone is actually touching New England now. It's a little part of it's over New England. So they're expecting it, if it does get in that area, that it's only going to be a tropical storm at that point, not a hurricane. We're going to look at the one from yesterday and just see the movement. This was yesterday's, 24 hours ago, and you can see that the north part of the cone was further off of New England and a little bit closer to North Carolina. And we're actually going to go and look at this one, I believe this is 2 days ago. And you can see how far 2 days ago it was off into the Atlantic and pretty much nowhere near North Carolina or New England. And here, let me go ahead and let's show the latest one again. There it is, and what a difference 2 days makes. So we have to keep an eye on these cones and see if they keep trending toward the west, especially on the northern part of the cone. We saw that with Irma, how the models and the cone trended westward just about every run. And here is the models, and they are showing on the north end how it's getting close to New England, and then they expect it to make a turn to the northeast, and that is Nova Scotia up there, and it could be affecting that area. So we're just going to have to keep a good eye on this in the next couple days, because this very well could trend further west, which could give Hatteras and that area some more problems. And here is the intensity guidance. They're not expecting it maybe to get to a Cat 2, and that's not very possible once you see a picture of it. And the area that it's in, the waters are not very warm, and there is some problems with the upper winds. So it's probably going to stay right in that Category 1, maybe strong Category 1. Here is a picture of it, and it seems to be sort of a one-sided hurricane. Most of the convection and storminess is off to the north and northeast. As I've always said, that's usually where the worst of the storm is usually there. But the eye has got a little bit better. There's more convection around the eye. So here's the data on Jose. At 11 p.m., it was about 600 miles south-southeast of North Carolina, pretty much Hatteras. The pressure was 983 millibars. That's 2903 inches of mercury, and the movement was northwest at 9 miles per hour. And they expect it to keep this motion, if anything, maybe turn just a little bit more north. So what will we see from Jose on the East Coast? Well, sometime today, Saturday, there'll probably be some watches come out. And there'll probably be tropical storm watches for North Carolina coast, and then probably more watches up north, up to New England, Long Island. Really just depends on the track of this, if it tracks a little bit more to the west. Next up, this is showing a moderate risk for rip currents, and those are very dangerous. If you've never seen one or never been in one, hopefully you've never been in one, but they are very dangerous. A lot of people are swept out to sea and sometimes killed by them, so they are very dangerous. And this is what one looks like if you're on the beach and you see this and you say, what's wrong with the waves right there? What that is a rip current, and that will actually pull you out into the ocean. So you really would not want that. And if you do get caught in one, just let it pull you out, and then you're able to swim usually to the left or right of it, and you'll be okay. Next up, this is the UV index, and I know there's people going to the beach this next week and this weekend, and around Myrtle Beach it's 7, which means that you can get skin damage in about 30 minutes. Further south, they're in the 9 and 10 range, which is about 15 to 20 minutes, and you can have a sunburn and some skin damage. So let's look at 96L. I've got a lot of emails from people in the islands, and yes, we do have to watch it. It could start to trend a little bit further to the south and southwest, and go right back over the islands that had problems, like Barbuda and the Virgin Islands, and maybe even further south. So check back with us. Here's a picture of 96L. And as I said, they're looking at a 90% chance in the next 2 to 5 days that it will develop. Right now, it looks a little bit better than it did last night. It's starting to get a little bit of a spin, and a little bit of a shape to it, and a little bit of, as you can see, those not feeder bands, but it's starting to get that little bit of a shape and a little bit of a core. Now this is our tropical depression 14, and they're expecting it to maybe become a tropical storm, but late Monday they're expecting it to be back down to just a depression as it moves out in the Atlantic. So no real threat from depression 14. And here's the models on it, and they pretty much put it out into the middle of the Atlantic and sort of go north and then northeast as a depression. So that's one less tropical area we have to look at. And here's a picture of it, and it has some convection around the center, but it is just in a very unfavorable area. As I said, maybe it'll become a tropical storm, but then back to a depression. This is our wave heights. This is from Jose, and you can see that they're right at 10 feet. And those waves will work their way toward the southeast coast, Myrtle Beach, Carolina Beach, Virginia Beach, all in that area. So they could see some watches come out. And this is, I want to show you, there's that high above Bermuda. There's also a high up near New England. And that is the one I was telling you about, that's sort of a blocking high. And depending on how that moves is going to be what goes on with Jose. Because that will, if you know about a high pressure, it spins clockwise. So the steering currents, it could have a tendency, if it holds up, to push it more west and stop its northern motion or slow it down. Well, thank you very much for all your comments, and thank you for all my subscribers. We're going to be watching everything, especially the new models that come out, and see if Jose trends a little bit more to the west. And we're also going to be watching very closely the islands, as 96L is going to become a depression or maybe a tropical storm in the next couple days. Well, until then, have a great